There's actually 3 O-rings or circular rubber rings. They're going to come with your performance rebuild kit, 2 sets of those. And the larger one, I think we went over earlier, which is for the slide port, vacuum port that goes on here. The next size down is going to go on your float bowl drain. And the next one up is actually for an air fuel mixture screw. You're going to want to hang on to that because the mixture screws we send you will come with one on the mixed screw or at least in the bag with it. Sometimes they fall off. Keep this because that rubber does go bad eventually. So a couple years down the road, pull the mixed screws, get the old rubber out, put a new one in, you'll be golden. She said. Cut it, pull it off, get the other O-ring, and push it on. But if I'm going to store a bike for more than a week, you're going to want to take this screw. If you don't want the mess, you can attach a little hose to this and drain it into a receptacle of your choice to hold the fuel. Shut the petcock off on your tank, and then drain the bowls out. So this side is almost done. This carb has almost been completed. The last thing we need to do is put an air fuel mixture screw in here. So these are the new air fuel mixture screws, the long handle air fuel mixture screw. And you can see the rubber O-ring is already on there. Put it in here. And you don't want to crank these down. This is very important because if you smash them, they're out of spec and you won't be able to tune properly. So you just go till it stops, just till it stops, no more. This is where 1 is. We're going to bring it all the way around, back it out. That is counterclockwise till 1 shows up again. Pass it. This is round 2, and we're going to go half. So there's our quarter, and there's half. So now it's 2.5 turns out. If you don't know how many turns out your air fuel mixture screw is, just bottom it out and start over. So we're going to go to the other side of the carbs, and we're going to repeat the process on this carb. Okay, now put our ACV together. So now we've got both of these guys pretty much assembled. We are going to be going on the throttle side of the rear cylinder carb, and we're going to attach the cable retainer and all the little bolts. So take this guy, and you can see there's a big hole and a small hole. So you're going to put the lock washer on. Cable retainer goes on the carb like so. All right. And the other one, same deal. Now you've got those on there. You have this little chingus. This actually is how you're going to attach like a Fortis Crucium carb shield like that. This is the little guy that holds it up. So this goes over the 2 holes here, and you have 2 little tiny bolts like that. So this is your idle adjustment screw here. It's defective, so we are going to get rid of it. We're going to replace with a new bolt and put this on here. So you have a spring here, and this is going to go on the throttle side right there to adjust your idle speed. On this particular carb, there are no vacuum ports that need to be blocked off. I know there's California is one state that like is ultra anal about all the EPA stuff. So any bike that was first sold in the state of California is going to have all the little ports you got to plug. So we don't have to on this one, which is great. So one thing I wanted to cover really quick for you guys, if you don't want to use this little mount here and you just want to have the cable retaining plate on the carb, you can use this large screw that comes in the kit and one of the small screws to hold it down. That makes it so you don't have to use these little standoffs and you can just bolt directly to the carburetor. It's up to you. It's included in the kit. If you want it, great. If not, don't worry about it. We're gonna reinstall the fuel line now. Pulled off the old fuel line. It's rock hard. It's not really great. Replaced it with some nice flexible fuel line here. You do want to put the spring back on because it acts as a heat shield and it prevents the fuel line from sitting on the motor or anything that might do it any harm. It could vibrate against a metal component and wear through. That's not safe. And we've actually put the T back in here and the short junction on this side. You can flip the T. Once it's installed, you can flip it to point this way or that way. Totally up to you, whichever way you're gonna run your fuel line. But this is how it came to us, and I'm gonna assume the guy has a stock gas tank, and in which case this fuel line needs to go to the left. Pushing rubber on a piece of metal is not gonna slide very easily. So some people, will say soapy water or maybe some grease or WD-40. I always use spit. It dries out and leaves nothing. So most of these have little retaining straps that bolt on here. Customer did not send those with this carb set, so it's up to him. When you put the carbs back in the bike, you're gonna go in this way and they kind of sit like that. You're just gonna wanna make sure you keep this out of the way when you push it in so that the rubber boot gets sat on there and seats properly. That's another thing I wanna tell you guys really quick. This isn't exactly part of the carb rebuild, but you're gonna have to put it back on the bike. So if you look at this example here to my left, these are the carb boots and the carb has to go into it. This is rubber, and rubber against metal is a brake, basically. Just grease it up. It's just gonna make installing those carbs way easier. Last but not least, we're gonna install the choke on this. There's a flat cutout, so you rotate it. With this plastic nut, super awesome quality. And you're gonna take this part of the cable and go back into the same hole that it came out of. And again, just like in the beginning, pull this thing up. It's spring loaded. That way you can get a finger on the back side of the plastic retainer and you can thread it in with your other hand. Size 10 millimeter wrench to make sure it's seated. It's plastic, so it's very easy to totally break it. So once it's seated good, this you don't want flopping, so you're gonna push the rubber sleeve over that little retainer down there. And we're gonna repeat the procedure with the other side. Just come around this way. So we've got everything on here except the stacks. So we're gonna bust out our velocity stacks. Our Allen wrench. Once they're in the bike, this is the installation procedure. Screen first. There you go. My dirty fingerprints all over it. There's 3 set screws, and you can orient these however you'd like. I generally clock them so one's at about, if you're looking at one's at 3, the other one comes up at 11-ish, and the other one's kind of down here around 7 or 8 o'clock. That way you can access them all to tighten them down. If you do it with this one up here, you can't reach it. This is something I'm sure you'll figure out on your own, and you'll figure out what works best for you, but that's just what I recommend. So now that you've reassembled your carburetors, aside from putting the stacks on, you can install the whole unit on your bike and then put the stacks on, hook up your fuel line, and start tuning. So your throttle cable is going to come in here. You can actually put the carb cover back on, or a Fortis Crucium on this side. You've got your air fuel mixture screws that are easily accessible, and you're ready to have a good time.